Sekeres and Price from Wall Center and a presentation of Applewood Auto Group.
Head down to the Richmond Auto Mall right now. I implore you here in the month of October, still some crisp, clear days, go for a test drive. Try the plug-in edition of the Mitsubishi Outlander at Applewood Mitsubishi and find out what I've been finding. It's a really fun car to drive. 3 rows of seats still for you family folk out there. Go take one for a test drive right now at the Richmond Auto Mall.
Bodog poll question: does the Canucks preseason record concern you? Yes or no? We'll put it to our next guest. Bodog, your source. Pre-casino games, poker strategy, and sports odds. Odds makers continue to disrespect the Texans. They're 2.5-point underdogs in Atlanta. Falcons coming off that London loss. I'm going to take Houston until they burn me. I'm going to buy the half point. So go +3 for $100. Can win 71 on your Bodog line of the day. Here he is from the Province and Post Media, and he'll be rolling with us on Thursdays this year. Switch from his Tuesdays of last season. Mr. Patrick Patty Johnston here with Sekeres and Price.
The confetti's going off Thursday. It's the big announcement. Breaking news.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm good. Yeah.
Were you forced
I'm
to
ready
make
for
the
this
trek?
season?
Were you forced to make the trek to see the Nothing Burger last night?
No. Coos got. I think Coos is happy to drive.
Huh?
I don't know if you'd call it a short straw. Well, I guess you have to go early enough to deal with traffic. But he's got his.
It's the
He's
short
got his
straw.
Merc, he goes out in his Mercedes, and he had a nice. I'm sure he had a nice drive out there. So.
Let me ask you this:
Just to be clear, a Merc is a Mercury, and that would be less of a cool drive out to Abbotsford.
Mercedes,
Yes, yeah, his Benz, yeah, not his Merc.
Benz. I couldn't remember what we call it anymore. Too much soccer in my life.
Not sure there's an Applewood Mercedes dealership, PJ. You're in violation here.
Applewood Mercury dealership, because I don't think the brand is alive in Canada anymore.
But hey, that 87 Cougar.
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
it's a beauty.
Did the Canucks do the folks of Abbotsford wrong here, billing Quinn Hughes and JT Miller only to call up 6 Abbotsford guys and throw them in the lineup last night?
I will say I was a little surprised when I showed up at UBC yesterday morning to see all the stars there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's preseason. I did ask Rick Tocchet last week, what's your kind of lineup plan here? And he talked about game 4 and game 6, skipped over game 5, that 4 and 6 would basically be where he played his full lineup.
Right.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, especially, I mean, you're marketing your team. The marketing staff is going to market whoever's there, whoever's on their roster. Of course, they're going to say those guys. So I wouldn't hold that. But yeah, I was a little surprised that one of those guys was not there. I mean, PD obviously dealing with whatever it is he was dealing with. He didn't want to talk about it yesterday, but whatever was never going to be there. So, send the captain maybe. I'm not.
Well,
sure.
we were saying though, like there's another way to do it. You sent you in the advertising, you do the collage. You do 7 guys' faces, and if you go 3 for 7, even at least you know that you weren't completely off. When you do the solo shots, and literally it's the 3 stars. The three advertisements I saw were the 3 stars that were not there, and that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah. Yep.
Answer me the poll. Are you concerned with the preseason record?
Well, you mentioned this as we were coming in, so I quickly did try to see if I could remember what the actual 2010 preseason. I have this dim memory of 2010 being a terrible preseason. There have been good preseasons and bad preseasons. If they had lost every game 10-0, if they had struggled to score, if they had looked like the Blue Jays batting in this week, I maybe would be concerned, but they had a good win last week. I'm a little nervous about the scoring, but then again, when they didn't put any of their stars in the lineup, they didn't score. Quinn Hughes looks ready to go. I'm ready to get on to the regular season. Preseason is about guys skating around, getting warmed up. It's the results. Like I said, if they'd lost 4 or 5 games in a row, 10-0, if they weren't scoring, I'd be more concerned. In the end, the question is going to be, can they defend? Can they kill penalties? Can they make their power play better? And those will only really be answered when we play real games starting next week.
Habits, standards, culture, and he's bemoaning a lack of on-ice communication, too many penalties, and missing open nets in the preseason. Is the Rick Tocchet project on schedule, or do you think the personnel is holding it back here? a little.
I mean, to me, this point, maybe will change when we look back in hindsight, but at this point, I think this is a coach just hammering home his message, right? Like, you should be expecting all these things. These are the things we need to do. We need to remember. He's making it clear. He's sort of putting a stamp on this is what we're doing. Just because a coach talks about problems doesn't mean there are problems. Just as if the coach doesn't talk about problems means there are no problems. I think it's just messaging. I took it as just messaging. This is a coach that says this is what we need to be doing, and it gives us easy things to talk about, and it certainly will give us things to measure this team going forward. That's what I'm thankful. Rick Tocchet has proven to be a very open, very clear coach and what he expects, and it'll be pretty easy to evaluate as we go forward.
I'll say this, guys, doubling back a little bit to the preseason performance. I did a Price is Right on this either last year or the year before, and the starts have only gotten worse when you think about what last season looked like. This team doesn't start well in the regular season, and should you not want to have a better preseason to launch yourself into the regular season? Is there any carryover there at all about how you feel? Because you know what, if there was proof in the pudding, empirical evidence here that, hey, yeah, so they go 1-5 in the preseason, but they're 5-1 out of the gate, or even 5-3 out of the gate, that'd be one thing. But we know this team starts terribly, or has been starting terribly in the months of October and November for time eternum. Shouldn't you want to practice winning?
Yeah, I get it. I just like I said, I'm focused on tomorrow. On this is the full lineup again.
You're on to Calgary, is what you're telling me here.
Well, I want to see what they do against Calgary. Like, that Calgary is supposed to have the full lineup. I was a little surprised the Oilers didn't have McDavid in the lineup on Sunday. On Saturday. It was never going to be the full lineup given they played on Friday night. But yeah, I want to see what this team looks like against a real NHL team. And as far as I can understand, talking to my colleagues in Calgary, that the Flames will dress their roster, even though they have 30 guys today, still somehow. But that the test there will be a full test tomorrow. And I get what you're saying, but
until they prove me wrong, I'm going to say,
sure. Yeah,
maybe they should try to win a bit,
Sure. But yeah. I see, there have been plenty of preseasons that we've seen in the past when this team was good, which obviously was a long time ago.
Yes.
But there were plenty of preseasons that were underwhelming for a variety of reasons, sometimes because they didn't get a bounce, sometimes because they weren't prepared, sometimes because, they didn't dress full lineups. At the end of the day, preseason is about getting warmed up. I mean, the beginning of the season, like last year, yeah, they weren't ready. They weren't ready to go. They looked terrible. They looked out of sorts. They couldn't get any bounces. JT Miller was on the ice for all 8 goals against, as he reminded me in Minnesota, I think it was. But that was you hope this team is better prepared than last year, and whether they win or not, this is to go back to a word that Blake used to like talking all about. This is a process question, and we are now discussing whether the process here is what is actually the right process. Are they going to be ready to go? And we will see very soon.
Have you been impressed with Quinn McWard? And do you honestly believe he's an option on opening night beside Quinn Hughes for any length of for a significant length of time in game?
Well, I mean, I wrote a thing on Saturday actually during the game. He took 3 penalties. 2 of them were chasing the game penalties. There's
5 penalties through the preseason.
Yeah, like there's definitely something there, but I'm not sure if it's I'm not convinced it's ready. I was surprised. They did give him a long rope, but again, when I showed up at UBC yesterday, there was Noel Juleson, and I found myself thinking, okay, obviously he's still here for a reason. Either it's because somebody's banged up, which is how he essentially made the team last year, or it's because they're seeing how much they can get from McWard, and Juleson's going to play on Friday, and they'll make the final call there. I think it's him or McWard for that. Both right shot defensemen. You look at how everything shakes out. The committee thing that everyone kind of picked up on Monday kind of made me laugh, because Tocchet's been talking about committee since basically the start of training camp. And the idea that that Quinn Hughes may have a few partners in a game, but something that I really took to be like Quinn Hughes is going to play a lot, and then we'll just see who gets on the ice with him, kind of thing. Like this guy's a point guard, and he's running the show on the ice, and the options available to him will depend on the situation, basically. I think Cole McWard clearly has bigger upside long term than Noel Juleson. Noel Juleson is a defenseman that I think we can understand what he is. He's sort of a bit of an old school guy with an edge, not the greatest feet in the world, not known for being able to move the puck.
He's a spare defenseman.
He's a spare defenseman.
He's a seventh, or he's a call up, and at best he's a sixth.
He's your first pairing guy in the AHL, or he's number 7. And Cole McWard probably is a third pairing defenseman, because that's what most guys that are going to make it are probably just that. The Canucks clearly think there's a bit more upside there. You talk to some people who actually look at prospects, Cam Robinson, guys like that. Like, they talk a lot about his ability to move the puck, that he had some really good reads in college. But the question is, can he transition? And as I think I've said, anytime he's ever come up, I think clearly you look at anybody's transition to the NHL, he would be best suited to have at least half a season in Abbotsford. Maybe he's a second half guy. I do think the Ethan Bear question hangs over all of this too. Like, you look at some of the math, you can build a roster. Essentially, the Canucks will have, give or take, $500,000 under the cap that they can work with. Obviously, it's not savings, because Tucker Pullman will be on LTIR, so you don't get any savings. But they'll have about $500,000, depending on how you structure your roster to play with in terms of sort of salary hole. So you add that up to a league minimum, all of a sudden you get to like 1.2. And if you're signing a guy mid-season, that prorates out to about that. If you're going to sign, say, Ethan Bear, if he's still an option in December. So, a lot of this to me also just strikes me as sort of a holding pattern. You sort of see how you go, see how this committee works, and then you look for, you see Bear as an upgrade on both those guys.
Let me ask you this, though, and I ask it openly, although I think I have an opinion on this. Is he's pedigreed more than these two guys are, and his general quality is higher, but is he the right mix, the right mate for Hughes on that pairing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think actually was at his best last year when he was away from Quinn Hughes.
That's what I was thinking.
And had a lot more confidence in his game,
and
ability to move. Which comes back to the committee point, which is that I really do find it interesting the way at least these guys think. Whether it makes a difference and whether it actually works, whether it even matters, is an open question still. But there is an element there, like I said, that they're sort of looking at this guy saying, okay, he is different. We're going to get him on the ice as much as possible. And depending on the situation, there's going to be a different guy with him. We'd rather it be a right shot defenseman. And yeah, it might be Cole McWard at times. I think at the end of the day, Cole McWard makes more sense to send him down because he doesn't need waivers. I don't think you lose Noah Juleson on waivers, but at times guys like Noah Juleson do sort of in that last round of waivers. I know there haven't been a lot of guys picked up, but there's always that kind of last shuffle. There's always a couple guys that go on the sort of the eve of the season, and they tend to look like guys like Juleson, sort of that guy's played a little bit. You kind of know what he is. He's not going to be a star or anything, but he can give you a few games, and if you lose him, you lose him. But other teams might be willing to take a stab at him, and I think he is the kind of safe bet to open the season that you hang on to, and then you make your decision once you have to start making some decisions. I mean, the other question in all this is, are they going to carry 2 extra defensemen? What happens when Ilya Mikheyev comes off waiver or comes off IR? And he was still skating in a non-contact jersey on Wednesday. I would be surprised if he played on Friday, but that's always a possibility, I suppose. They're not skating today, so it seems like a long shot.
They've counted him out. Tocchet has said he's not going to play. So
I mean, I didn't think he was ever going to play, but there was always that chance. So, but you've got to think he's a guy that goes on the season opening trip, could get activated somewhere in that first stretch. there are still all these variables, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to probably be Juleson over McWard, and then you kind of make your decisions on from there, and you see how your lineup is. And yeah, like you're totally right. Is Ethan Bear the right guy? I mean, he would be an upgrade over what they have right now. Maybe you just do that anyway. You just you need NHL defensemen, guys that can move the puck. We know he can skate the puck. We certainly saw it in the second half of the season when he got a little more confidence and a little more understanding. I mean, the system changed. And all of a sudden, Ethan Bear became more confident carrying the puck. He hadn't been that at the beginning when he said there was no direction and there was no instruction. So, which ties back into the overall big question is that all this stuff, the system stuff that they said they tried to work on last year and started this year doing, will that matter? And, will this team be any better in its own end than it has been the last 2 seasons?
Connor Carrick on waivers today, if you care to go down that road again. Doesn't even know.
I don't. Who do you like for the final forward spots there? What do you think the battle is shaping up there?
Well, again, like I said, the Mikheyev question kind of hangs over this, but I think it's kind of shaken out the way it looks like. I mean, your extra guy is either going to be is it Jack Studnicka? Probably the extra guy to start with. It's hard to think that Dakota Joshua doesn't start in the lineup at this point. They definitely like. There was I think it was last week, there was a question to talk about Bluger, and it might even have been Jeff, but it was Bluger and Oman about the sort of the pair of them playing with Studnicka. And he talked about how he liked, Oman has come in, was one of the fittest guys that they have and bigger and stronger and had played last year. And they just sort of like his attitude, was terrible on faceoffs last year. I think his NHL future, if there is any, is as a winger. But notionally, they'll say, well, he has played some center. He doesn't bring a lot offensively, but they seem to like the sort of the notion of him. Studnicka was not very good last year. And, I have a hard time imagining, it's great that they like that he's been hustling and working hard in preseason. I have a hard time imagining in the long run, he's anything more than a depth player. But I think he'll make the lineup start the season unless Mikheyev comes off IR, and then probably Studnicka goes on waivers. I don't think they're going to waive Oman. I think they like him too much.
So here's the thing. The next time we talk to you, the Vancouver Canucks will have played a regular season game.
Yes.
The home and season opener against Edmonton on Wednesday. With most guests, we would need their prediction before that game goes down, but we're going to give you the free look-see before we ask you next week if they're a playoff team, all right?
Sure. He can make snap judgments?
Yeah, exactly.
5-1 ventilation by the Oilers? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
The leading Stanley Cup contender Oilers. They're fantastic.
Hey,
they are a fantastic measuring stick.
I think, and I've already seen it, but I think you're going to see a lot of people picking Edmonton to win the Cup.
No, I think so too.
This year. Thank you for this, Patrick. Have yourself a wonderful week. We'll catch up next Thursday.
Take care, guys.
This Sekeres and Price clip brought to you by Applewood Auto Group. And remember,
it's all good at Applewood.